Okay, so hello and welcome. Good afternoon or good evening. I hope you're all warm. Welcome to our webinar with industry experts on translation and interpretation. At the Department of World Languages and Cultures at Salem State University, we firmly believe that language study provides added value to your education. It not only enhances your communicative skills, but perhaps more importantly, helps you develop intercultural competency. Indeed, studying a language matches well with any other area of study on our campus. Today, however, we are focusing directly on an industry where language skills are not something that's on the side or an addition, but are the central focus. As chairperson of the Department of World Languages and Cultures, it's my pleasure to introduce you to four remarkable individuals who have made significant contributions to the language services industry. First, we have Craig Buckstein, the CEO of Geneva Worldwide. Craig has been instrumental in transforming the company into a flourishing language services institution with over 22 years of experience. He has been a driving force in developing Geneva's interpreting, translations, and transcription units into fully remote operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Under his leadership, the company continually expands its online capabilities and grows its video remote interpreting to serve a rapidly changing world. Next, we have Esther Bonin, an international language industry expert with over 20 years of experience. Esther has worked on both sides of the Atlantic as a certified translator and interpreter, university professor, and language access consultant. Recently, she led a team of over 75 interpreters and translators for a large Massachusetts hospital. Currently, she directs interpretation programs for PGLS, a language company headquartered in Washington, D.C., where she is responsible for all commercial and government interpreting programs. We also have Stephanie Casal, a former Arabic cryptologic linguist in the United States Marine Corps. She has since continued to work in the language services industry and is currently the senior project manager at Globo, where she manages the translation and localization team. Stephanie's journey in the industry was quite unique, having started in the military and has continued to hone her skills through higher education and work experience. Lastly, we have Kathleen Diamond, a consultant, entrepreneur, and business leader in the language services industry. Kathleen founded Language Learning Enterprises, Inc., a full-service language company based in Washington, D.C. in 1979. She is recognized as an early pioneer in the telephone interpreting and has grown the company into a dynamic multi-million-dollar corporation. Kathleen is also a charter member of the Association of Language Companies, ALC, which brings her to us today, and serves as the chairperson of ASTM F43 Language Services and Products. Her contributions to the industry and her community have earned her a seat on the Burke and Herbert Bank's board of directors. So please join me in welcoming Craig, Esther, Stephanie, and Kathleen, and Kathleen is going to lead us off.
Thank you so much, Ken. Boy, we sound very illustrious. I'm excited to be here this afternoon and seeing such an expansive audience. This is fantastic. Thank you for coming. We know that you've got some bad weather up there, and so the fact that you're here in front of us is extremely rewarding. So we hope to give you this afternoon some insights, new information, or perhaps validate and improve upon information and thoughts that you already have. So I'd like to, I see many of you already online. Can I have some kind of a sense, how many of you actually have heard of the language services industry? Okay, good, excellent, excellent. So, and those of you who haven't, you will know more than you even thought you could possibly care about this very afternoon. As Ken said, I am the chair of the ALC Bridge Committee, and I'm just going to give you a 5-minute sort of origin story. It began back in 2017 when the ALC had an unconference, and there were small groups of us, owners of language companies, sitting around a room saying, oh my God, my worst problem is that I have no talent in my pipeline. I can't find linguists. I can't find people that love language to come and work for me. So we tossed around some ideas, and I don't know, I spoke up. And you know, when you speak up, tag you're it kind of thing. So I said, well, I think what we need to do is to connect with the academics, because we have the jobs of the presence and the academics are shaping the talent for the future, people that we can then hire in our companies. So that was sort of the beginning. The first thing I did was to form a committee, and the ALC Bridge committee is made up of both academics and employers. And then we created a speakers corps. And I think this afternoon, and I don't always say this, this particular panel is particularly stellar. So I think what I'd like to do is just start off. We're going to save questions at the end. And please just hit us with all the questions you have. You can put them in the chat, or we can have live discourse at the end of our presentation. So this afternoon, I'm going to start out by asking Stephanie to speak. When I first met Stephanie, she told me that she works at a company that is a very good member of ALC, and many of us know very, very well, Globo. Then she started telling me a little bit how she came to the private sector, and she is our absolute stellar Defense Language Institute graduate. Living proof that you can even make a living with Arabic in your background. So Stephanie, would you please take the mic and tell us a little about your story, your company, and the campaign? Just you might hint on the campaign that we have currently underway with internships.
Sure. I'm going to try and share my screen with my presentation that I used last time. See if I can remember how to do it, because I haven't done it since the last time.
I just made you a co-host, so hopefully that'll help.
Okay.
So while Stephanie is looking, you've got it?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I wasn't scrolling far enough. Usually my technical skills are a little better than that. So I feel like I've got a lot of hype to live up to now. So let's see if I can sound as interesting as everyone makes me sound. So as Kathleen said, my language journey, my professional language journey started in the Marine Corps. Right after high school, I really didn't prepare for life, which I feel like is not uncommon among high school students. You don't expect it to come at you that fast. And so I hadn't done anything to get ready for college, and I kind of fell into the military because I've got a lot of family background, and it seemed like a good way to bide my time until I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. So that was in 2000. You'll notice that timeline is right before a rather large event in U.S. history. I joined the military and immediately went to the Defense Language Institute and started to study Arabic. And September 11th came around, and I was in the middle of studying Arabic, and it was kind of then that it hit us all that we were actually really going to use these language skills. And so this was kind of my first foray into languages in any kind of professional sense. And most of what I did was transcription, was reviewing Arabic translations for intelligence information that could be used. And still didn't occur to me at that point that this could be anything more than this is what I'm doing now. And I stayed in the Marine Corps for 5 years, did get deployed to Iraq, used my skills there, was stationed in Fort Meade, where I worked with the NSA for a little while. Still in the Marine Corps, but doing an NSA job. So I got out in 2005. Still wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but everybody getting out of the military at that time was going into government contracting. So why not? I did that too. Started to work for a little security company called MVM Incorporated. We had a contract with the Bureau of Prisons that we did, and I managed a team there of transcriptionists and, again, intelligence review, finding possible terrorist links. And then from there went to L3 Communications, which does a similar thing, but with the Department of Defense. I actually went back to Iraq with them for a little over a year, managing about 250 linguists, both US based and local nationals from Baghdad. And doing mostly administrative stuff. I didn't really do a lot with the language there, but my background did help with communicating with my linguists. So that was great. Did that for a year, decided I didn't really love it there, as you can imagine, and came back and went back to college for music, which was what I'd wanted to do in high school. So I'm in here doing my degree, and I was working on the GI Bill and needed one more class. And I thought, intro to linguistics, that sounds interesting. I told that to my professor, and she looked like she might actually pass out, because I don't think anyone had ever said that about her class when they were required to take it. I absolutely fell in love with the science of linguistics. It was fascinating, and I couldn't wait to learn more. So I did finish my music degree and got my minor in linguistics, and then went on to study linguistics in graduate school. So that was 2013. I went to UNC Chapel Hill for graduate school and started my official study in linguistics. Still not having any real idea what I was going to do with this in my life, but I knew that I was really enjoying it and I really loved it, so I kept going. And then right out of grad school, I was recruited to a company called Icon PLC. This is a clinical research organization with a language services department. So this was my real first private sector job, where I started to learn the project management aspect of language services, which is a whole nother creature altogether. But I really started to dig into all of the different aspects. Oh, I'm admitting someone to the waiting room. That popped up on my, sorry.
That's the radio co-host. I'll take care of that.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I worked my way up while I was at Icon PLC. I worked my way up from an associate project coordinator, I think is what they called it at the time, and worked my way all the way up to managing a team of project managers, and learned all of the different ways that the language services can serve all other industries, really, especially with how globalized the world is becoming. I got into, we do basic translations, we do localization, transcription, voiceover, all kinds of different things that were all included in this umbrella of language services. I stayed there until the middle of the pandemic, and then moved over to Global Language Services in August of 2020, where I have been since then, and I run the translation and localization department, in which we do all of those same things. We do translation and localization, desktop publishing, voiceover, transcription, any part of language processing that you can imagine, you'll find within these departments. I do not handle interpretation. That's something that you'll hear from the rest of our panelists, but just to kind of give you an idea of just how many aspects there are to language services and how many different things you can do. I think that when people do think of language services, if they do, because it doesn't happen often, they really just think of translation or interpreting. And sometimes they use those interchangeably. But there's so much more to it, and it doesn't even require specific language skill to be involved in it. It just takes a love of helping people communicate and learning to facilitate that. And I know this is short. I run through this really fast. Kathleen wanted me to mention internships, and I did just talk to one of our people to find out about that, and I would love to share more for anybody that wants to connect. You can find our company on LinkedIn, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to share those. We do have several internship programs that one of our acquired companies runs, most of which I think are in Texas, but they've got some remote ones. But these are great opportunities to find your niche, to find where you fit in, to find what you love about language services, because there's so much to love and so many ways to support and to make a living in the industry. And I think that's all I have. I'm leaving lots of time for Esther at the end.
Oh, you are so fantastic. And I hope our students are already getting the message that there is so much in this field. You do not even have to be a language major, but it does help if you at least feel passionate, as Stephanie said, about communication and global communication, working with people and contributing to the multilingual experience. So thank you, Stephanie. You didn't disappoint me, that's for sure. And now Craig is under great pressure because he's next. And this is his very first presentation as an ALC Bridge speaker. So we might have to cut him some slack, but he's awfully good. So I think he'll rise to the occasion. Craig, take it away.
Wow, a lot of pressure. I don't have the PowerPoint, so you have to listen to my words. I don't have the roller coaster, but I'll take you on my emotional roller coaster for just a few minutes if you let me. And I appreciate the introduction, Kathleen. My name is Craig Buckstein. My company's Geneva Worldwide out of Manhattan, New York City. We are a family-owned business founded in 1903, and we're celebrating our 120th year this year. So we've been around for a very long time, and we have generations. I'm the third generation. Unfortunately, the third generation is the one that's supposed to kill the business. So that is my charge, to not kill the business and to make it to year 121. So we've come quite a long way. I actually came into my business with my father in 1999 as an intern, and I'm on year 23 and a half of my internship still. So it all kind of starts with interns, which is a great place for you all to come and enter. And here I am. Many years later at the top of the food chain over here. And I've seen a lot, and I've watched the industry change. I've been working in language services my entire career with this company. And as a charter member of the Association of Language Companies, I was also fortunate to be the president of the Association of Language Companies and help bring other language company owners and operators together to talk about this industry, how we can improve best practices, how we can work with each other more, how we can increase accessibility and work with each other behind the scenes to really give our clients a full suite of services when no one of us is able to do it independently. We got on the federal GSA schedule on or around 2002, just after 9/11, and we saw that entire world of federal business increasing. And with security and everything, that was a big line of services for us. But we provide interpreting, translation, and transcription in over 200 different languages. We were always a brick and mortar company, being we have our office in Manhattan, right by Penn Station. We have about 30 full-time people. And when COVID hit on or around March 15th, 2020, which happens to be my son's birthday, that was the last time I saw a lot of our employees for a while. Everything in New York City, as we all know, things changed. The entire world changed. And we were working on making our company a virtual operation before that, just by opportunities to give ourselves a few extra Fridays here and there to work virtually. So we've been working with it, and through the ALC and through some of our conferences, I've been backloading some of our technology and making sure we were ready for some type of transition. I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger to the level that we did so quickly, but we were ready. And come March 16th, 2020, we were 100% virtual. We changed our entire operations, and what was a group of employees just around the tri-state area, it's completely shifted. We are worldwide. I've got 30 full-time employees, but over half of them are from around the country and around the world. We do work completely remote. We are all in these tiles every day. This is how we want to work. This is how we prefer to work. It was a cultural shift. We spent a few years trying to understand how we can work better with each other, trying to get our training and everything up to snuff. But this is the opportunities that we bring in. We have anyone who wants to work virtually. We have a wonderful opportunity within our world, within our four walls. And our specialty is language services. We could do this work anywhere. And now we have the tools that we've been trying to push for the last 20 years. Our clients are, I could admit people too. Let's do that. We're able to use the technology tools that I've been trying to push for over 20 years to our clients. We work with the schools, the courts, multinational companies, hospitals, and we've always provided a video remote interpreting. It had a few platforms to work with, but no one would ever take us up on our nice offer. How do we get virtual? People weren't using FaceTime as much or even communicating like this. It just wasn't the norm. And as soon as COVID hit, all of our clients were so quick to push the button, and we didn't have any work because everything went down to zero on the interpreting side. We made everything about training and getting our clients up to train on VRI platforms and also using telephonic services. And in that short time period, our complete makeup of a company changed. We were always about 75% interpreting, and then translation, transcription, telephonic was the rest of the business. During COVID, interpreting face-to-face went down to almost zero. and telephonic shot through the roof, video remote interpreting shot through the roof. We were doing contact tracing for the whole state of New York. We were providing mission critical work in the hospitals, but still interpreting was depressed, and all of our other lines of business kept rising while interpreting was down. We're starting to see that interpreting is coming back. Interpreting is still leading again. It is coming back a lot with a lot of caveats because a lot of people want to work like this. They want to work in VRI and telephonic. They want to work remote and work with 20 different agencies and take advantage of that technology. We're able to offer our clients anything, either or. And the world is changing. Their needs are changing, but our opportunities are now remote. For people that are interested in this world, in the language field, you are the people that we want in our doors. I've been clamoring to get awesome talent in the door with a passion for language. I'm so happy to be in front of people that actually care about this. We always look for that. We put our ads out on LinkedIn. We put our ads on community boards. But if you're not looking for us, you will not find us. We need to do a better job as ALC Bridge, working with schools and people that are studying this to show that there are careers, real opportunities there. We have our own internships in many different departments, whether it's the operations side, the translation side, the recruiting side, or even accounting or contracts and sales. We run those all the time. And our interns have been the most successful employees of our group. They stay with us the longest. They're passionate about what they do. And we're able to show them real movement within the organization, within an industry, hopefully they like and love. That's my ramble. I'll pass it back to you, Kathleen.
Oh, Craig, I'm tired.
Sorry, my New York fastness.
Man, you guys are unbelievable. You are just exploding. And I remember some of those darker times. We've known each other for a long time. So I must give you congratulations for being such a good leader and keeping a great company going. I know it's going to be around for the next 25, 30 years, whatever. And going down to your son, we'll see if that happens. I may not be around then, Craig, but you know. So thank you very much. And I know that you are very keen on the internship, which we'll be talking a little bit about at the end of our planned remarks to you and be taking your questions. I'd like to now ask Esther to come in and take the mic. You will find a whole different story. Each of us has stories. Many of us sort of stumbled in to this industry because we simply didn't know it existed. And we just don't want that to happen to you. So Esther, it's your turn to talk to the students.
Great. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay. So let me just start from the beginning. If I can move some of my stuff around, and for whatever reason, it's not letting me. Here we go. From the beginning. All right. So I am very excited to be here today. As Craig said, we are all passionate about languages, and we know that Professor Reeds is probably sharing the same passion with you guys. I am going to guide you through a little presentation, but I want to focus on what's your superpower. I typically talk about the human side of the language industry. You've heard Stephanie, you've heard Craig. Everybody brings something special to this industry. It's what makes us awesome people, like Kathleen typically refers to us. So I want you to think about what's your superpower, because you don't know it yet, maybe, but it's there. And I love Stephanie's presentation because from the very beginning of that roller coaster, she was having fun. There was something she was doing that she was having fun that kept her in the language industry. She didn't know exactly what it was, right? But that superpower was already there, and you have it within you if you're enrolled in some of these language courses already. So my story has taken me from one side of the Atlantic to the other. I'm originally from Spain. I was a terrible piano player, and it's thanks to my music teacher that I ended up learning English. I went to England when I was just 14, and that took me in a wonderful world of learning different cultures. English was just my first language. I speak 4. I dab in many others because it's my passion, right? I work in many different situations already when I was a student, just like you. I was a tourist guide. I became an escort interpreter. I worked for commercial missions in Barcelona, in Martinique, in Brussels. I was just a student. I was set up as a freelancer to do some of this work. I was a translator for nonprofits. I became a court interpreter with very little experience. I want to do like this now when I think about it. I did conference interpreting, and I thought I had made it when I became a live interpreter on TV for the Barcelona TV channel that cover all the Barca soccer team and basketball teams. Now, little did I know that my industry was about to change, and was about to change fast, as Craig said. Mostly what I did when I started was on site. I had to go travel to these all different appointments. And then later on, a lot of the same jobs that I could do on site became remote. I could work video remote or over the phone, or provide even remote simultaneous interpretation from the comfort of my own house. And this is something that you can do right now from your dorms, from your houses. This world is completely open to you. And it's all about what you want to put in, right? So I was a university professor, like Professor Reeds. I work at Durham University in England. I love cognitive linguistics, pragmatics, discourse analysis. And I want to say this, at the time, I did not know that all these heavily theoretical areas were going to be valuable to me, but oh my, they are. So you're already taking classes with Professor Reeds and other professors at Salem that are planting the seed of skills that we need in the language industry. Some of those, text analysis that you're doing, some of the exercises on translation, all that good work, it's already setting the stage for what a lot of these project managers do that Stephanie was referring to, these great communication skills that without realizing you're already learning about, they're critical for the success of our companies. I became a teacher and trainer of interpreters when I moved to the US, because I could see that there was a heavy disconnect between the skills that were taught at the university and the skills that I could see and needed on the ground in healthcare institutions to serve some of the limited English proficiency that we serve. I did a lot of interpreter training. I set up the first apprenticeship for interpretation for healthcare interpreters in the state of Massachusetts. I taught a lot of language and grammar courses too. But what really, really caught my passion, right, was language access in healthcare. And what is language access? Language access is the very same reason why a lot of these companies, we exist today in the United States. There is a framework of laws that regulate the usage of interpreters in healthcare and institutions that receive federal funding. And I'm not going to bore you with all the laws that are in there, but just know that in this country, limited English proficient patients, which is a term that I don't really fully like, but many other bilingual individuals who have not had the beautiful chance of speaking English as well as we do, they have the right to receive services in this country. And when I talk about the human side of the language industry, it's exactly this. Your language skills can lead you to a very fulfilling career in which you are helping connect those limited English proficient patients with an interpreter, through an interpreter, with the services that they need in our communities. So I fell in love with language access. I started working in language access plans as a consultant, and I fell in love with the idea of a discipline called critical medical humanities. And critical medical humanities tells us that we could combine disciplines in the humanities like art and philosophy, and not just to train our future medical students on how to, be educated and learn, but also to assess critically what's missing in our healthcare system. So I became a community faculty member in a medical school in Massachusetts, where I provided all sorts of workshops around social determinants of health, language barriers, cultural humility. We even ran poverty simulations so the CEOs of big hospitals in Massachusetts could understand the issues that people that do not speak English see when they walk through the doors of a hospital. And I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but just know that we all bring to the table a different passion. We are in this industry because we're passionate about connecting people, but we approach this from different angles, right? Mine is this idea of being an advocate for those who are not able to speak the English the way we do, right? And who still deserve to receive some of the services we all get. So my company, PGLS, is not mine, right? Our CEO is a wonderful guy, very young. His name is Mohammed Hussein. He's a Somali immigrant, one of 8, I believe. And he was a wonderful entrepreneur from day one. He was going to become a physician. And at some point during his journey, he decided he was going to set up a language service company. So some of the jobs that we provide at PGLS, they range from interpreters in healthcare and many other verticals, but more than interpreters and translators, we have localizers, transcriptionists, terminologists, project managers, schedulers, language leads, people that do subtitling, translation managers, interpretation managers, implementation managers from some of the technology that we use. But I want to say this, whether you are a major or not in a language, your ability to connect and move across cultures, and like Professor Reed said at the beginning, that cultural competence that you are developing at Salem University, it is priceless to us, because we also need people in sales, marketing, program management, and leadership roles that are able to have that affinity to multicultural environments where we can all work together and achieve what we need to do in a nice and congenial way, right? Mission of my company, PGLS, has equity at its core. And that's when they had me at hello. So we work with government institutions, healthcare, education, nonprofits, you name it, right? And what I do now is I lead a global team. I focus on process improvement and integration. I do a lot of customization for client solutions, and I focus also on quality and engagement, team development, and I am very interested in designing processes that are inclusive and experiences that maintain our collaborative and startup culture. So all this sounds complex, and oh my, I love this, because with all this hype with ChatGPT and all this technology stuff that is going to come and steal our jobs, I want to say this to you. Nobody is going to steal your job as a linguist or as a project manager. But yes, we're going to need to incorporate some of those technologies into the way we handle our process daily. So we manage complexity, and complexity is very hard to automate. And you already have some of these wonderful skills that we need. The good old transferable skills of the humanities, your language skills, the cultural awareness, the sensitivity, the interpersonal communication, the problem solving, the analytical skills, the teamwork. All that translates to us in better staff management, better ability to negotiate funding and budget approvals. You're going to be able to develop relationships internally and externally in a way that only humanities candidates can do. Okay, so that innovation, teamwork, and emotional intelligence that you bring to the table, it's very valuable to us. And it's not just me that says that. There was a study by Deloitte that put that information out there. Okay, I'm not just making it up. Now, the language service industry, it's pretty hot. We've seen a little bit of decline this year in the mergers and acquisition scene, but it continues to grow. So in 2022, PGLS was named the fastest growing language service company in the United States. And you're going to say, well, how do you do that? We do that through organic growth, but also inorganic growth. So we are acquiring other companies that provide interpretation services and translation services. And again, that complexity, cannot be automated easily. So this means for you a possibility for a lot of jobs with us. Okay, that's the study of Deloitte that I'm not going to, guide you through, but just know it wasn't Esther making it up. It's well documented and researched. Humanities graduates, you bring a lot to the table. So those of you in there that think that there's not a place in the language industry for you, there is. Having said that, we also need people that bring to the table technology skills. Okay, this is a wonderful time in the language industry. There's a lot of things that are changing, a lot of things that are giving us a push. And that language access framework, that set of laws that I was talking to you about at the beginning, they provided the kind of like the beginning for a lot of our companies. Now we're seeing a shift in the way we're talking about these rights. We're starting to talk more about language justice and human rights. And we're starting to have a lot of people pushing for advocacy and advocacy for people that encounter language barriers in their daily interactions with their communities. We're also seeing an increase in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging through some of the major companies in the United States and global companies. So whether you have technology skills or humanities skills, I have no doubt that this industry has a place for you and you can find a fulfilling career. At PGLS, we offer webinars and interpretation certificates. Somebody asked, what do I need to get an internship? To get an internship, probably very little. But if you are curious about interpretation, for example, there are certifications out there. And there is the opportunity to start that journey through something as simple as a 40-hour training course. So PGLS works closely with a nonprofit organization called Piedmont Academy, where we actually provide 40-hour community interpreting courses for those of you that might be bilingual and would like to explore the area of interpretation. So that's a way to get started. Get a minimum 40-hour training that could put you into the path to that certification for healthcare interpretation. So we provide trainings. We also have a lot of jobs for freelancers as interpreters, translators. We also have part-time opportunities for instructors. You can visit our webpage and look for some of those opportunities and stay tuned in the ALC Bridge webpage. This is what I would like you, I want to gear you all to come to our webpage. That's where you are going to be able to see the different companies that are in this business. We have a phenomenal platform where you will be able to get match with one of the language service companies that needs an intern, right? It's much easier to go to one single platform, which is the ALC Bridge, than for you to navigate vast array of companies that offer this type of opportunities. So I asked you at the beginning, what's your superpower, right? I want you to, by the end of today, to hopefully, plant a seed in your heads. So you identify your skill set, you take advantage of the opportunities that come your way. And what I tend to tell my interns is self-reflect and self-critique. Without that, you cannot address the gaps, and we all have them, right? But I also want to say, invest in your strengths. Don't think too much about, the things that you don't know yet, right? Focus on some of those strengths. Lead with your passion, try to be a couple of steps ahead. Research, plan, execute. That starts with researching the companies you want to work for. What's their mission? What are they focused on? And then stay aligned with your values. I think all in here we can say that we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. And that's why I think we all have these fulfilling, wonderful careers, right? So I tried to go as fast as I could because I want to leave time for questions. And I know that some of you might have questions about how do I first put my foot in the door? What are the skills that you're looking for? What type of certifications or programs are out there? Feel free to ask us. The rest of the presentation, we're just here to answer questions. And I hope that I just contributed a little bit to give you a little taste of how wonderful it is working in this industry.
Esther, thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is infectious and you never lose it. You've always got it, even when you're trying to still overcome some health issues with COVID or whatever. Here you are giving your all. So thank you very much for this presentation. And I will add that I sent to Professor Reeds a whole series of resources that he can then share with you directly, including access to the place where you go to find the internships. I have to give a caveat because this campaign, this internship campaign, is driven by academics saying we need you to do this, and our language companies saying the same thing. But as we've gotten into it, if you look at us, we are a bridge, which means we have to have you and the company on the site at the same time. So it seems like it's an easy thing to do, but actually it's quite a task. So don't be discouraged if when you go on the site, there's nothing posted. Tomorrow there will be something. We're building the relationships with our companies to provide you with more and more opportunities, and your professor has those resources. So I will turn it over to you, the students, to ask your questions. This is your opportunity.
While you're thinking of your questions, I did, and I don't know if Esther and Craig, you want to do the same. Networking is an essential way to be aware of a lot of things going on. The ALC Bridge is a great resource, but connecting and getting to know people in the industry is great too. I have put a link for my LinkedIn page as well as the Globo, so that you can follow that. We post job opportunities all the time. That's a great way to get your foot in the door, start to know people in the industry and kind of follow what they do and what they follow as well.
Craig, would you have any comments?
Absolutely. I'll drop my LinkedIn after this, but I think as the bridge is starting to grow and we're getting more and more people out there, it's incumbent upon you to reach out to companies like us, follow our companies, follow us individually, and look for our posts. I think we have the same issue. We're trying to find you, you're trying to find us. In the interim, while we're building this, look at some of the companies on the ALC website and start following them, start following their leaders, and take a look and see what we're posting when we're posting. We have all these wonderful opportunities out there. We're like, where are the people? And you are the people. And while the bridge is getting built, the best place is to find us and find where we're putting our ads until it's all put together. But we will continue to put it out there, and you continue to look, and we'll find an opportunity to get together.
You're so right, Craig. And we want you to really understand that the ALC Bridge is the only platform specifically designed for employers seeking skilled talent and for educators to help the students develop practical skills, and for you, the students, to identify and find careers, jobs, opportunities that would attract you. So now do we have, looks like we might have a question. Nope. In the chat? Nope. Well, Professor Reeds, do you have any questions?
I think Lee looks like he has a question.
Yeah, I have a couple. Like, one thing was about in reference to the Spanish language. I remember years ago when I went to an ATA conference like 15 years ago or whatever, and I think I heard some talk about like there was interest in like coming up with a norm of Spanish according to like to have a US norm, because there are so many Spanish speakers in the United States. So there was talk of coming up with a US norm. Does anyone know what the latest on that? Because the last I heard about that was 15 years ago. Has anything developed? Does anyone know about that?
I'll speak first, and panelists, I need you to corroborate. My understanding is that our companies are asked to work in many different dialects, many different aspects of Spanish. If the work needs to be Mexican Spanish, then the work we deliver has to be Mexican Spanish. So no, I have not heard any progress on an English norm for Spanish or a Spanish norm. Anybody else, Stephanie?
So when, and it's going to vary by, I can't speak to the interpretation side, but I would imagine that this is not something that would be practical for the interpretation side, because we have to provide, our goal is to provide services in the language that is spoken by the person who is limited English proficient. So our goal would be to get someone who speaks a dialect that they speak. We do, on the translation side, have what we refer to as Spanish for US. There is not a ubiquitous Spanish dialect for the US. That's not the way language works. What we do when we do something like that, we also have a universal Spanish, which doesn't really exist. What we do is genericize things and try and use the most widely understood terminology. Our advice to our clients is always to narrow that as much as possible. If you know where your audience is going to be from, to localize for that area. But no, there is not a real existing US Spanish, although we work into something that we call that. Is really the best answer I have for you.
Okay, no worries.
So there are, Lee, there are efforts in academia and certain people out there trying to work to bring some sort of unity into that. But when we work in our companies, as Stephanie said, the best that we can do to manage some of these concerns is we do ask our clients to provide sometimes like a set of glossaries or terminology on how they want to address certain issues, so we can deliver a product that they are comfortable with, right? And then to do that, we work with linguists that are capable of, working all these requirements. But
Okay.
I think that's the best explanation we can give you.
Okay. So I have another question as well. If no one else has any other response.
Go for it, Lee.
Okay. So I remember years ago, like 15 years ago, I thought I was going to start to be a translator. So, I did some pro bono work, and what I remember, it was for me, like once I started doing those pro bono assignments and saw what translating was like, I didn't really have any CAT tools or anything to help me. But like, I remember that like I felt so overwhelmed by the need to look so many words up in a dictionary. I mean, I had always thought that was going to be a part of it, but I mean, it seems like as a beginner, that was such an overwhelming thing. So I'm wondering, like, what happens? Like, how do people deal with this whole need to look so many words up in a dictionary and look up parallel text? Like, is there any relief at some point? Like, how do you get that relief? It seems to me that like, if I were specialized and I had maybe several years of experience in a certain field, maybe I would get that relief and like have a certain vocabulary in my system and just have to look up certain words in a dictionary or something like that. But I mean, how do you deal with that need? What happens? Like, how do you get beyond that point, or whatever you want to tell me? Like, how do you get beyond having to look so many words up in a dictionary?
Well, I'll take this one. I work in translation in my early career when CAT tools were just starting, right? But we have so much technology capable of supporting translators right now in the translation side of the house. And it is not my specialization, but translation memories, CAT tools, all this stuff is terribly helpful for you. Creating your own glossaries, your translation memories, that really takes away that going back and forth with your dictionary. Everything is in your computer. People now work and quote, prices depending on if it is, a complete, translation from scratch, or if it's a fuzzy match, or right. So there's a lot of technology out there, Lee, that can help you with that. But unfortunately, I also hate to break it to you, right? You gotta put in the effort. right? So that going back, whether you're looking in that dictionary or you're looking to a terminology data bank, right? That needs to happen still. And it's like, you know, it's practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the more of an expert you become. And I want to say this, you're absolutely right. It comes a moment when sometimes by destiny, sometimes just because of the type of assignments you are given, right? You become an expert in a certain area. And that's the area that you love performing in because it's easier to you, it gives you the more pleasure. But when you guys start at the beginning, we do a little bit of everything, right? So it's not easy answer, but technology is your friend. Go do a quick search of like, you know, tools for translators. And I know you guys have a certificado de traducción, right, in Salem?
Yes,
And,
that is correct. Yep.
and I'm not sure if you cover some of these tech things, but if you stay in touch with the ALC Bridge, we do have a lot of people in the speakers panel that can talk to this much better than I do.
Okay, thank you.
I think Samantha has a
Samantha?
question.
Yes.
Hello. I apologize if there's a little bit of noise. I will lower my hand. Firstly, thank you all for sharing your stories very much. It's very comforting to me as someone that's studying French language and the certificate for translation to know that there are options for me out there. But my question, so this can be multiple people, just one person, depending on how you respond to this. Your careers are so vast and unique. Obviously, that's very comforting to me. Do any of the ALC companies or the companies that you work for typically offer opportunities to learn more languages, like Esther had mentioned for PGLS with the certificates, but like learning another language for master's programs? Do you guys give any aid or encourage that in any sort of way? Just because personally for me, I know that I feel that I would be more useful that if I learned more than one language that I can help more people. So do you know if your companies, the ALC companies, or you guys particularly offer extra opportunities, master's program benefits, or specific classes to recommend to your employees, interns, etc., just to get better with their language skills and learn more languages so that they can help more people?
Craig, it looks like you might have a comment to that.
No, I mean, certainly we encourage it. It's something that we will help out if and when we can, but it's not something a lot of our people take up internally, of course. Like, if this is something that you're interested in, we like to keep our people growing in the areas that they want to. So it depends on the individual, and it's something we have done in the past. It's just not a universal project. It's something that, you know, we work on individually. People that have been with us for a while, we create stipends for that stuff, whether they're going for their master's in business, in language. If there's someone that we want to keep in any way, shape, or form, we are open to different ways to let them grow and us grow together. And we have a certain network of other outside of programs that we work with. I work with Vistage, which is a bunch of CEOs across almost every sector and industry. And I can find training tools and training programs and classes through some of our partners that I can refer to our team. That's for us.
Stephanie, you might have a different vision because in the military, there's some of that, right?
Yes. So this kind of relates to a question that was posted in here that talks about what requirements for translations, and I'd like to jump into that as well. So my company does encourage, and I as a leader have encouraged. Oh, and that's Samantha who was asking this question. Who left? There she goes. Encourage professional development, depending on what your job is within the company, depending on what your goals are. There are definitely programs that will help. I have my localization certification, which Globo paid for, to help me advance my career. So you will find companies that do offer those programs and leaders that encourage you to take those professional development courses. Since it kind of is related to requirements for translation, and when you're talking about learning languages and getting better at that, certifications so specifically for translation, interpretation really does require certifications depending on what you do. If you're talking about court interpretation, medical stuff like that, they're really heavy on the certifications. Translation, not so much. There's not really a globally recognized certification that will help you advance in translations. We do, however, if you're talking about a company that does a lot of business to business like we do, you want to look at, we are all ISO certified. 17100 is the international standard for translation companies, and that sets up the requirements for being a translator. It talks about there's kind of 3 routes you can take. You can either have a degree in translation, specifically a degree. You can have a related degree plus 2 years of experience, I think. Or you can have 5 full-time years of experience in translation, and that experience will put you within the parameters of ISO certification, which any big company that you want to translate for will likely have that certification, or at least have those expectations of a degree and experience. Now, you can sometimes find companies that maybe will help you get the experience to translate, or like it was mentioned before, doing pro bono work to sort of get that experience, are all great ways to kind of build that up. So that's it. Since we're getting 2 minutes out, I have a hard stop at 4, so I apologize. I think that others might be able to stay and ask some questions. But please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. I would love to, connect with you and help you in any way that I can. And I wanted to thank you so much, Kathleen and Professor Reeds, for this opportunity. I really enjoy doing these speaking engagements quite a lot.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. And we are pretty much at time, Professor Reed. So I don't know, maybe we could take one more question, but it's 3:59 on my clock. Yes, Adrian. No, Maria Arias.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to find the hand thing. It wouldn't appear. I just have a quick question. So I do have, I work kind of like in this industry, but for public schools. So I know that I'm interested more in translation than interpretation. And I know that for the portfolio, because I did a lot of the translation was like confidential stuff, like IEPs and stuff like that. Like, how would I navigate that with my portfolio? How would I show that I do have the experience, but I cannot actually put those documents into the portfolio, if you know what I mean?
That's an excellent question. Let's hear from the panelists.
Craig, why don't you take this one?
I mean, you can list it without putting the specific details. We'd love to know the type of work you're doing without any of the specific documents. We all know what that means when our recruiters are looking through that kind of documentation. So without putting the specific document samples, even the names of whoever it is that you're working on those type of assignments for, just what type of general work you're doing, we get it. So just list it there, highlight it, without getting the specifics. You're not violating any confidentialities by talking about the type of work you're doing, and it's encouraged.
Yeah, so listing the client, the type of meetings, if you're in education, IEPs, 504s, hearings, parent-teaching conferences, if you list what you are doing, that's enough for us. And this is, I mean, bear in mind, we work with, a lot of us work with the government. We are the people that train DEA agents that go in a mission to Colombia, right? We have instructors that present to us resumes like each day, full of assignments that are confidential, top secret. We do have linguists that actually have to be clear by the US government. So you asked before about the opportunity to, advance and learn other languages. I will tell you that as a linguist working for some of the big companies out there that do government contracting, you could be picked one day to do something for the FBI, for the CIA, right? And these programs will pay you to learn a second or third or fourth language. So I had the opportunity to pass some of those tests in a previous life, and I will tell you that even, being able to increase my French level a little bit each year will imply a little bump up in pay. So what a wonderful industry, right? That pays you to learn and continue to be learning these languages that you guys like. So the government it's a great place to get some of that training. But we deal with confidentiality, top security clearances each day. So as long as you don't do things that can identify the person in particular, you're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Professor, I think we're at time.
Yep. So let me just say thank you to Kathleen, Esther, and Craig, and to Stephanie, who's already left us, for spending time with us today. I have many of the links, both the ones that Kathleen referred to before, and as well as the LinkedIn ones that were added to the chat. And I'm going to send an email kind of to the whole list of people who were attending today. But please, why don't we all just say thank you to our presenters. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
for
Thank
coming.
you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.